So our story starts with an Austrian monk named Gregor Mendel, who studied pea plants and noticed strange patterns of the generation's plant heights. We now know this today as Mendelian inheritance, the simplest form of heredity. In this type of inheritance, you have two phenotypes of the trait controlled by two alleles, the dominant and the recessive. So in Mendelian genetics, the dominant allele always overrides the recessive allele in a pair of alleles that make up a trait. Oh, also remember the three different allele combinations: homozygous dominant, homozygous recessive, and heterozygous. Those will be extremely important in this video, so keep those in mind. However, as scientists discovered later, genetics weren't as simple as Mendel had put it. In some patterns of inheritance, the dominant allele doesn't completely override the recessive allele. This results in the mix of the two phenotypes in two different ways. The first is incomplete dominance, where the heterozygous phenotype is the blend of the two phenotypes. A good example of this is that in snapdragons, dominant is red, white is recessive, and heterozygous is pink, a blend of the two. The other is codominance, where both phenotypes show. A good example of this is that in chickens, the dominant allele codes for black. The recessive is white, but the heterozygous phenotype is checkered, or where the chicken's body has a black and white pattern. These two can be confused at times, so know the difference. In some instances, there are multiple alleles, more than two for a single gene. A classic example of this is human ABO blood typing, where you have three alleles, A, B, and O, and a combination of any of these two contributes to the phenotype. Before I continue drawing, you need to know that A and B alleles are codominant to each other, and O is recessive to both, so it's actually pretty complicated. So in terms of phenotypes here, you have the A and B alleles make up type AB, and then you have AA and AO make up type A, BB and BO make up type B, and OO make type O. If that isn't complicated enough, for many human traits, such as skin color, hair color, and eye color, and height, there are multiple genes that control single traits, known as polygenic inheritance. For example, in human skin, there is said to be at least 3 genes with a dominant dark allele and a recessive light allele that are each inherited separately, with numerous combinations of alleles and consequently numerous different skin colors. In case you haven't exploded yet from frustration at how complicated things really are, single genes don't always affect one thing in an organism. One such case is pleiotropy, where a single gene affects more than one trait. For example, in pea plants, one gene coding for flower color could also affect the seed coat color. The other is epistasis, where the effect of one gene could potentially cancel out the effect of another gene. For example, in many small animals such as mice, there's a gene controlling fur color in which black fur color is dominant to brown fur color, but there's another gene controlling the deposition of pigment in the fur, depending on what color the other gene controls. But if the genotype of the pigment gene is recessive, the result is that no pigment will be produced and the mouse will be albino regardless of the genotype of fur color. Okay, I promise I'm almost done exploding your mind, but in addition to all I've already discussed, certain traits can be linked with specific chromosomes. The more important one to know is X-linked or sex-linked traits. In this situation, some traits are only inherited on the X and Y chromosomes. More of these traits are inherited on X chromosomes, sorry for guys. Because of this, for guys, whatever gets on the chromosome that his mother gives him, regardless of the allele, is what he expresses since the Y chromosome doesn't have a partnering allele with those of the X chromosome. A classic example of this is color blindness. A male that receives an X chromosome from his mother with the recessive allele for color blindness will be colorblind, just like my AP biology teacher. On the other hand, for girls, 2 X chromosomes from both the mother and the father contribute to the genotype and consequently the phenotype of the child. So for girls, since they have 2 X chromosomes, both the mom and dad have to pitch in affected X chromosomes in order for the girl to have color blindness. Because of this, girls are much less likely to inherit X-linked diseases than guys. And finally, there's gene linkage, which basically means that genes in the same locations on the same chromosomes are generally inherited together. T.H. Morgan observed this in flies, in which he observed 2 traits on one chromosome, black versus brown body color and functional wings versus useless wings, and noticed that most of the fly offspring inherited the same phenotypes as their parents, and fewer inherited different ones. Morgan realized that if the traits were independently assorted, then the phenotype proportions would be a lot more even, proving how some traits are linked or inherited together if they're located in the same place. Well, that's all for this episode. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helped you out. Please like and subscribe as well.